Today's editorial is all about elections in New Zealand. Familiar topic, I did one yesterday regarding elections, if you remember. Going to happen, this one happened already. Familiar turf. And today I could not bring the words and meanings, I'm going to tell. You have to listen and write. How does it start? Back in business. Underline back in business. Also write one more expression, back to work. Back in business, back to work. Both mean the same. In action, again in action, that's what it means. Back in business what? On the New Zealand election result. But what is the main idea of this editorial? New Zealand cannot afford to, put a star mark, cannot afford to, jettison. Try to guess the meaning of the word jettison. Write the word jettison, try to guess the meaning. There's a reason why I'm asking to guess the part of speech. Okay, forget about meaning. What part of speech could it be? Please write a verb. It looks like a noun, it is a verb. It's a regular verb. And write the meaning of that. Jettison means to drop or throw something. Bracket you write plane, ship. When the cargo becomes heavy, then what they try to do, they throw or drop some things from the plane or from the ship. That is called jettison. Have you got the meaning? The weight is too much, they have to get rid of the weight, then they jettison. It looks like a noun, it is a verb, an important word. New Zealand cannot afford to jettison welfareism. So what do you understand from this? They cannot throw welfareism. They cannot ignore welfareism. That's what it means. Cannot afford to jettison welfareism while setting right the economy. They have a problem with the economy. To set right the economy, the editorial opines, they should not ignore welfareism. They should not drop welfareism. That is the idea. But I told you to put a star mark, one particular expression. Which one is that? Cannot afford to. It has, first you write the word afford. One word form. Also write the word affordability. And write this example, I cannot afford that car. I cannot afford that car means I cannot buy that car. I don't have enough money to buy that car. Not affordable. You go to a shop, you want to buy a dress, they say 10,000. You have only 8,000. Is it affordable or not affordable? Then what do you say? Thank you. I can't afford that. Yes or no? But why I'm telling this, again you write the word or the sentence. I can't afford to say that. I cannot or I can't afford to say that. This has a different meaning altogether. Now standing here, if I am not happy with the management, imagine. Standing here, a live session, I can't afford to say something against the management. What does it mean? Nothing to do with the financial aspect. I can't afford to say that. Means, if I say that, it may have a negative impact. I can't afford to ignore someone. I can't afford to say something bad against the management standing here. Have you got the meaning? Yes, sir. Means what? You cannot do it. Why? If you do it, it will have a negative impact. In this context, that's what it means. New Zealand cannot afford to drop welfareism. If it drops welfareism, they may get into trouble while restructuring or setting right the economy. After Saturday's national election, here elections over or not over? Over. After Saturday's national election, New Zealand is poised. Poised, part of speech verb. It's a regular verb. It has 2 or 3 meanings. In this context, poised means positioned. I write the meaning of the word positioned. In a particular position. Poised to do something. We are all poised to achieve success. Means in a position to achieve success. But poised we also use with, write the word, balanced. This is a different meaning altogether. Some people are very mature, balanced, poised. We also use the word, write the word composed. Here, balanced, composed, poised, positive terms, a different meaning altogether. I hope you got the difference. And sometimes we come across people, something happens positive, very happy. Something negative, depressed, human nature. But there are some people, positive they don't show, negative they don't show. They take in the right spirit. That is known as an important word they are given in bank exams many a time. I write the word. That is a philosophy followed in Japan, Stoicism. And that person, we call that person stoic. Stoic in nature. Stoic is not a negative word. Stoic is a positive word. Happy, no reaction. Sad, no reaction. Balanced. Have you got the meaning? But sometimes what happens, we come across people, others are suffering. They are least bothered. No reaction, but on the negative side, least bothered. There are 2 words you have to learn. One word goes with everyday English, like a stone. No emotions for others' sufferings. Stony. But exam point of view, that is not an important word. Callous, many a time they have given. Callous means when others are suffering, you don't respond, you don't react, you ignore. And usually we give an example, it's a general statement. Doctors are usually callous nowadays. Yes or no? Because doctors have become commercial. Someone is dying, they want the bill to be paid, only then the treatment will be given. That means callous or not callous? Callous. After Saturday's national election, New Zealand is poised to get its most right-wing government in years. For many years, the right-wing government could not form the government, so they are going to get its most right-wing government in years with the Conservative National Party and its libertarian ally, ACT. The word in bold is an important word. Ally means what? Usually it is used at the time of war. Any problem with the voice? Write the word war. At the time of the war, some countries join hands together. And what is the word for those countries? They are known as allies, friends, at the time of war. Here in the context of politics, a party with similar ideology. It talks about all these parties. Its ally ACT winning most of the votes, and the Labour Party of Prime Minister Chris Hipkins seeing a major erosion. I think the words are in bold. I will stop and I will ask a question. Erosion, which part of speech is it? It's a noun. And what is the verb form? I write the word form, erode. Verb form, erosion, noun form. Erosion, we all know, school level we studied. It goes with what? Soil erosion, a typical familiar example. That means the top layer of soil gets removed. Something gets removed, we use erosion. But sometimes what happens? Something bad happens, something negative happens. A person may erosion of confidence. Confidence also gets eroded. And sometimes the confidence touches the lowest level. When someone's confidence touches the lowest level, that is the time a person commits suicide. Lowest level, there is one idiomatic expression, please write that one. Then we say, his confidence touched rock bottom. Rock bottom is the idiomatic expression. Never allow your confidence to touch rock bottom. Very dangerous point. Have you got the meaning? I hope the mic is on. Thank you. So how could they come to power seeing a major erosion of its popular support? A particular party, earlier there was one party, Labour Party, they were in power for 6 years and there was a lady Prime Minister. The editorial talks about that lady. She got a very good reputation, especially at the time of COVID-19. They had only a few cases because of the strict measures implemented under her guidance. In fact, she is known for her strong personality. Once she was giving an interview. Do you see that Jacinda, what's her name? Jacinda, former Prime Minister of New Zealand. Once she was giving an interview, that time there was a earthquake, and everything was shaking. Usually what do you do in that context? You stop the interview and you start running away from the place, yes or no? She did not do that. She said, let me complete the interview. After the interview, we'll move out of this place. That takes immense confidence and presence of mind to do something like that. Yes or no? That is extraordinary. Grit, confidence, and courage. It talks about the Labour Party losing power. They were in power for 6 years. With most votes counted, National's vote share went up to 39%. Now all these are statistical data, which party got what, upscale, downscale. A particular party, National's vote share went up to 39% from 26% in 2020, while Labour's share collapsed. This lady was the Prime Minister and that party, Labour Party, from 50% to 27% in the same period. Because of that, they had to lose power. The Green Party, another party, a Labour ally, won 11% of the votes and ACT secured 9%. They took the help of some parties and they're going to form the government. But it talks about Labour Party. Labour Party fall from grace. 6 years they were in power and from 50% it came down to what percent? 27%. That is not acceptable. So next sentence talks about that. Labour's fall was particularly significant as under the leadership of the charismatic Jacinda Ardern. There's one important word here, charismatic. Have you heard of that word? Part of speech? Charismatic personality. Adjective. Please write the part of speech. Adjective means magnetic. And it goes with leaders. Charismatic leader. Today, if you take the state of Telangana, KCR is a charismatic leader. People enjoy, they want to go to his public meetings. On the other hand, or you take Congress party, when Indira Gandhi was alive, he was a charismatic leader. People would go to see her, magnetic personality. But today, if you take Rahul Gandhi, does he have a charismatic personality? Not even 10% of his grandmother's charisma. That's an important word, goes with leaders. Charismatic leader, who is that? Jacinda Ardern. It had swept the national election 3 years earlier. As I said, they were in power. It talks about the first situation. Which tense are we supposed to use? Two action, first action, second action. First action, past perfect. So please make a note, past perfect tense. Ever since, I told last week also, I suppose, underline ever since. This is something very important, you have to listen very carefully. I told last week, whenever we come across ever since, we see a clause in past and we use a present perfect tense. But do you see the same here? No. Ever since New Zealand moved to, clause is in past, underline moved to. The proportional representation system in 1993, 2020 was the only time, underline 2020 was the only time. Which tense is that? Past tense. We should expect what? Present perfect. Tell me why is it in past? Underline 2020. Because they mentioned the time in past, they used the past tense. Otherwise, usually ever since takes present perfect. Do remember. The point here, in English we have rules, we have exceptions. That's what you have to catch. 2020 was the only time a single party got an absolute majority. Miss or Mrs. Ardern's leadership was widely praised. She was praised by the world leaders. Around the world, she became very popular, widely praised, especially during her handling of the COVID-19 crisis. Underline the word crisis. Crisis, singular or plural? What is the plural of crisis? Please write the plural form. Crisis. They have given in many exams. Singular, plural. Crisis, COVID-19 crisis. New Zealand saw one of the lowest per capita death rates they could control successfully. She was also seen as the icon of liberal politics. Icon means what? That's an important word. If you take cricket, in the past, Sachin was the icon. For the youngsters now, who is icon? Virat Kohli. The man who shows his emotions in 360 degrees. He cannot hold his emotions. I enjoy watching that guy. Anger, he cannot hold. Happiness, he cannot hold. Surprise, he cannot hold. And on a larger scale, you see on screen, that makes the right impact. But there's another word you have to know. Please write another word. Two words. A role model. He is my icon. He is my role model. And one more word. He is my idol. As an example I'm giving, Virat is not my idol, okay? And all the words mean the same. But idol has another meaning. What is the other meaning of the word idol? At the time of festivals, if you take Vinayak Chauthi, you buy small, what is that called? Idol. Another meaning is. Here, she was seen as an icon of liberal politics, and Labour promised to tackle child poverty. Underline the word tackle. Tackle means what? Deal with. The Labour Party promised, under her guidance perhaps, to tackle child poverty, climate crisis, and narrow inequality, reduce inequality. Write one expression, haves and have-nots. Have you heard of this? Usually any society, any country, we come across haves and have-nots. Society is polarized, means two groups. One group haves 20%, the other group have-nots 80%. So haves means what? Rich or poor? Please write rich people. Have-nots, poor people. The rich and the poor, haves and have-nots. Have-nots, there is a saying in English, the rich tend to become richer, the poor tend to become poorer. Have you heard of that? That is a paradox. So this party promised to tackle child poverty, climate crisis, and narrow inequality, reduce inequality. But she stepped down, to everyone's surprise. Stepped down, underline step down. Means she resigned, she came out of power. In January this year, citing means what? Write the word quote. Q-U-O-T. Cite, quote. Citing one reason. What is that reason? A burnout. Here actually burnout is a phrasal verb. We can use phrasal verb as nouns. Please underline burnout, used as a noun. Citing something, what? Burnout, noun. Means what? To get tired, to get exhausted. Burnout means to get exhausted to a great extent. Imagine you work 16 hours a day. One day it's okay, 2 days okay. You work for 1 month, 16 hours a day. After 1 month, what happens? Your senses don't work properly. You cannot think properly. And you get extremely tired and exhausted. Then that is known as complete burnout. Your thinking also gets affected. That's what, but people were not convinced. Being the Prime Minister, stepping down, giving the example or quoting burnout, not a convincing reason. By the time, the actual reason could be, by the time her popularity had also tanked. Today we have got past perfect twice. Which tense is this? Past perfect. It talks about what happened before election, so past perfect. Have you heard of this any time? Her popularity had also tanked. Means what? Positive or negative? Write the meaning of that. Damaged or lost. Her popularity lost. So she must have thought better to step down, but she cannot say publicly, I lost my popularity, so I want to step down. What is a better way of presenting the same thing? Burnout. It is like an excuse. Do you understand what I say? And based on the word popularity, I would like to give 3 words. First, you write the word famous. Famous means what? Known to many people. Below that, you write the word popular. You are known to many people and people like you. Then we use the word popular. It's a positive word. You are known to many people, people hate you. What is the word? Write the word notorious. Notorious goes with smugglers, gangsters. Everyone knows, in the past we had Veerappan. You all know Veerappan. Known to everyone, but popular or notorious? Notorious sandalwood smuggler, like our Pushpa. Pushpa popular or notorious? Notorious. That is our first part. Now let us go to the second part of the editorial. The last sentence I'll read. By the time her popularity had also tanked, with many increasingly frustrated. Frustrated which part of speech? Frustrated person. Frustrate is a verb, but frustrated person, adjective, right adjective. What is the meaning of that? Not happy with one's situation or unable to change one's situation. You want to change something, you are not able to change. Then what happens? You get frustrated. Not happy with one's situation or unable to change some negative situation. People get frustrated. Frustrated over what? The country's economy. So in the elections, the major point at the time of manifesto or campaign, economy. The second part talks about that. Mr. Hipkins campaigned on Labour's achievements, including the tackling of the pandemic. Mr. Hipkins also belongs to the Labour Party. So it is continuation of why the Labour Party lost and what they did in the past, how they campaigned in the elections. Mr. Hipkins campaigned on Labour's achievements, including one of the achievements what? Tackling the pandemic. The tackling of the pandemic and child poverty, and promised to continue its broader agenda aimed at helping the working people. But the opposition's criticism that Labour had failed. They said we have done well. What will the opposition say? Yes or no? They oppose, obviously. That's why they call opposition. But the opposition's criticism that Labour had failed. Again, you underline had failed. Which tense is this? Say for the first time, so many times past perfect. Had failed to bring in. That's an important phrasal verb. Bring in means cause changes. Cause changes. Bring in the reforms means to introduce reforms. Bring in the transformational change it had promised. It had promised, underline again past perfect. After 6 years of power, seems to have hurt the party. A lengthy sentence, but what does it say? The Labour Party says it has done a lot at the time of COVID-19. It has worked towards child poverty and also done something else. But the opposition criticized. They said the Labour Party has not done any of these. Because of that campaign against the Labour Party got affected. It made a dent on the Labour Party. Seems to have hurt the party. That means people must have believed. Its stringent COVID-19 lockdowns. Underline the word stringent. Stringent means what? Strict, very strict. It goes with laws, rules. Its stringent COVID-19 lockdowns and border controls also contributed to the economic woes. We have got this word a few times. What is the meaning of that? At the outset, which part of speech is it? Was singular, was plural, noun. Means problems. Not simple problems, problems on a higher scale, larger scale. Effective English was, simple English, problems. Economic problems because of the restrictions. There was a brief recession. Underline the word recession. How many of you know the meaning of the word recession? A recession means low economic activity. It happens once in 15 years. Usually it begins in the West, in the US, in Europe. Then it spreads across the world. And during recession, a lot of people lose jobs. Many businesses get closed down. In bank exams, twice or thrice, they've given passages based on recession. So try to gather some information that will help in the exam. There was a brief recession, past tense, this year. Here, underline this year. Which tense are you supposed to expect? Incomplete time period, present perfect. But they have used which tense? Past. There was a brief recession this year, and the country is still reeling under high inflation and high interest rates. Reeling under means experience, write the meaning. The country is reeling under means the country is experiencing. Experience something. They are reeling under pressure. Typical example. National Party leader Christopher Luxon, a former airline executive, focused his campaign on the economy and promised to cut interest rates and government spending. Another party, their promises, one promise, focused his campaign on the economy, promised to cut interest rates, one dimension, and government spending. Generally what happens when the economy is in trouble, a particular country, they resort to cost cutting. They try to cut down the expenditure. There is one important expression, if you use in your essay, you will get more marks. We call austerity measures. What is that called? Austerity measures. Have you heard of this expression? The government has resorted to austerity measures. A-U-S-T-E-R-I-T-Y. Austerity measures. Means cost cutting. Cutting down the expenditure. Cutting down the expenditure. I think 2 years ago, Nirmala Sitharaman, she was talking about the expenditure, cutting down the expenditure. She used the same expression, austerity measures. Shall I go to the next one? Voters, driven by concerns about the economy, punished the party which they had voted for overwhelmingly 3 years ago and turned towards Mr. Luxon. Voters, what did they do? Driven by concerns about the economy. They were worried about the New Zealand's economy. Because of that, 3 years ago, they gave a thumping majority to the Labour Party. They elected the Labour Party with overwhelming support. Overwhelming means what? Very high degree. But this time they are punished because they were not happy, they were not satisfied. Sentence talks about that. Voters, driven by concerns about the economy, punished the party which they had voted for. Underline, they had voted for. Past perfect. Overwhelmingly 3 years ago, and turned towards Mr. Luxon, a new leader. He will assume power. Underline the word assume. In this context, assume means what? To get. Assume power means to get power. But why I would like to spend a few minutes on this word, I think the other day also I gave, what is the noun form of this? Write the word assumption. We use in a plural form, assumptions. What is the meaning of the word assumptions or assumption? Assumption means you assume something. That means you think of something and it may be true, may not be true. Don't assume things. Conversation English, sometimes we say, some people think negatively. Then we say, don't assume things. Find out the facts and take a decision. Have you got the meaning? It talks about what? he will assume power, but here a different meaning. He will get power at a critical time, means important time for New Zealand. Why is it important time? Economy is not in good shape and they had a brief recession, obviously critical time. While any radical change in foreign policy, which is leaned towards, underline, lean towards. The word lean goes with everyday English. What does it mean? Imagine someone goes there, stands against the wall, freshly painted. What will I say? Don't lean against the wall, your shirt may get spoiled. Have you got the meaning? But in this context, what does it mean? Move towards, please write the meaning. Leaned towards means move or tilted towards the US without irking China. New Zealand is not pro-China, it is pro-US. But at the same time, it doesn't want to mess up with China. It does not want to irritate. There is one word in bold. Which word is that? Irking. Irking means what? Irritate. Write the meaning. Irritate. So regarding foreign policy, which is leaned towards the US without irritating China, is unlikely at home. Mr. Luxon is likely to move the government away from the Labour's welfareism. Usually what happens in elections, imagine Congress comes to power in Telangana. They will not continue with the welfare schemes of the BRS party. They will not do that, common sense. They will come up with their own welfare schemes. That is quite natural anywhere in the world. This sentence talks about that. It says, Mr. Luxon is likely to move the government away from the Labour's welfareism. Based on that, the main idea of the editorial, they should focus on welfareism. They should not completely discard welfareism. Remember the main idea of the editorial. What does it say? New Zealand must not jettison welfareism. It should not drop welfareism. But they're trying to do that. He has to address, underline, he has to address. Tell me which tense is this? It is not present perfect. That's why I asked the question. Please underline has to. It is not a tense. It is a helping verb. Has to goes with third person singular. Other pronouns we use have to. An important one. What is the function of this helping verb? Obligation. Obligation imposed by what? Obligation imposed by external authority or a situation. Last time also I told, obligation imposed by an external authority or a situation. I gave the same example. Every time I give the same example. Tomorrow you get the job. First day in the bank. Someone receives you, talks about your responsibilities. Based on what the top management has said, external authority, then the sentences go this way. You have to report to the manager. You have to come by 8:30. You have to do this. You have to. Or you are talking about third person singular. He has to do this. She has to do this. And what is the second dimension? Situation. Imagine today is the last day to apply for a particular exam, bank exam. What will you say? I have to apply today. Situation demands. I have to pay the electricity bill today. That talks about the situation. Every time you have to recollect, please remember, he has to address the cost of living crisis. This talks about the second dimension. What is the second dimension? Obligation imposed by a situation. He has to address the cost of living crisis and bring the economy back to its growth trajectory. Trajectory is a physics term, but here it means what? The path of something. Write the word path. P-A-T-H. Path of. But he should also be mindful of. Be mindful of means consider, think, be careful, be mindful of. Be careful, consider. But he should also be mindful of structural issues such as homelessness, child poverty, and inequality that have plagued New Zealand's economy for decades. I'm really surprised. New Zealand also has these problems. What are the problems here? Homelessness. It's a developed country, not a backward country. They have this problem of homelessness. And what is the second problem they have? Generally we say poverty, but here it is specific. Child poverty, that is strange. What is the third one? Inequality, the haves and the have-nots. And there is one important expression, please underline, that have plagued. Which tense is that? Present perfect. But here, first you write the word plague, very important. In English, competitive exams point of view, 5 diseases are very important. Why? When we use these diseases, we have to use a definite article the. What are those 5 diseases? Please write. First one, measles. Second one, mumps. Third one, rickets. And the fourth one, plague. One more is there, it slipped my mind. But all these, we have to use the definite article, the. The plague, the measles, the rickets, the mumps. But here plague has been used as a noun or as a verb. So please make a note. It is usually a noun, but in the context of the editorial, it has been used as a verb. Means to get troubled for a long time. Write the meaning of plague. To get troubled or to suffer for a long time. For a long time. The problem of terrorism has plagued the country for many years. Now you got the meaning. They had to suffer for a long time. It talks about that. How does the editorial end? He has to balance, underline has to, helping verb. He has to balance his pro-business policies with incremental redistribution from haves to have-nots. Incremental. You all know the word increment. It goes with the workplace. Increment means small amount. Incremental, addition of small amounts at regular intervals, we say incremental growth. That's all about this editorial. And the tone of the editorial is analytical and objective. No personal stand has been taken. Today, due to lack of time, I could not bring the exercises, but only questions I have brought. Shall we see the questions? What was the main reason for the decline in the popularity of the Labour Party in the recent New Zealand election? Is it lack of charismatic leadership? Their handling of the COVID-19 crisis? No. Please say yes or no, that is enough. Economic concerns and perceived failure to bring transformational change, mentioned in the passage. So what is the answer? C is the answer. Which party gained the most votes in the recent New Zealand election? Is it the Labour Party? The National Party? Which party? The National Party. Second option is the answer. They took the help of ACT Party, who was a former leader of the Labour Party who had been widely praised for her leadership during the COVID-19 crisis. C is the answer, Jacinda Ardern, a tough lady, a woman of iron will. Question number 4. What was one of the major economic challenges facing New Zealand at the time of election? Low inflation rates, low interest rates, a brief recession. C is the answer, mentioned in the editorial, a brief recession. What is one of the primary economic priorities promised by Christopher Luxon, the leader of the National Party? Is it raising interest rates? No. Cutting government spending? Hold that one. Increasing border controls? No. Tackling child poverty? No. Cutting government spending. 5 questions over. And have a look at right on your, if you take the handout, the second column on the right. What does it say? Editorial vocabulary consolidation. Down you have words you got on Monday, Tuesday, and all these words you got yesterday. And I haven't brought the parts of speech. You have to write the part of speech and you have to make your own examples. Can you do that? Please do that. First one, tell me which part of speech is it. How many of you say verb? Please write verb. A regular or irregular? A regular verb. What is a regular verb? Takes D or ED. Supplant, supplanted, supplanted. Try to make a sentence on your own. Think of a party, think of a person. What is the meaning of that supplant? A replace. So make a sentence. See if you could write one sentence. Give it a try. Have you written? Which tense have you used? Verb means there should be some tense. Which tense? Past. You can use any tense. Once you know it is a verb, you can use in past or present or future or present perfect. That is your choice. That you have to remember. Have you got an idea? Fine. Anyhow, take it as a homework and try to write. I hope you will do that. Your smile could mean two things. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.